Well, damn, you guys look good. It has been a little while since we've had a live hockey talk show, but we are back for the 2018-19 season, and we have a whole hell of a lot to cover right here on the Hockey Talk Show, live at thehockeytalkshow.com. I hope your summer was great. I hope things worked out for your team fairly well. Hell, I hope everybody can hear me right now. It seems like you guys can hear me, so let's get this damn thing started. Toronto and Taveres, are they the odds-on favorite for the 2018-19 season? We'll see what Vegas thinks. I'm surely going to let you know what I think. Plus, injuries, additions, and subtractions heading into the 2018-19 season, which begins this evening with Washington and Boston. We'll get into that matchup. The Buffalo Sabres, third jerseys. We got a whole heck of a lot to talk about on this episode of the Hockey Talk Show, and it starts right now. How's everybody doing? Check in. Let's see where you guys are at. Joe, Michael, how's it going over there on the Facebook page? YouTube Live. Eddie, my man, you're here. Loving it. Loving it. Gonna get to your questions in a little bit here. We do have a lot to go over on the Hockey Talk Show. Have we gotten a Wilson verdict yet? Sort of the big, is this an illegal hit obsession lately in not only the National Hockey League, but this has spread to the National Football League as well, because you can no longer sack the quarterback. You have to tuck him in like you would your 3-year-old. Tom Wilson had a meeting today, and I don't know if we had a verdict rendered yet in that. I haven't seen anything. We're still doing this, baby. We're still here. Going to get into a lot of the issues. On the Hockey Talk Show. We got a lot to go with here on the program. So thank you guys for coming back. Thanks for being here. We're going to be here all season long. One note I do want to make right off the top of the program here, and that is that we are going to be doing these shows earlier in the day. Last year, we kind of got into a groove of 6:30, 6 o'clock, 5. It didn't. The number one complaint I received last year was from the people that listened to the show on the podcast, because they were getting the show essentially like a whole day later, and that didn't really work for them. So if we do the show earlier, it's 3:40 Eastern Standard Time right now, but I would imagine we're going to be closer to 2, 3 o'clock on a daily basis as far as the video portion of the show goes. And then we can upload that up for the podcast people and hopefully keep them happy and keep them coming back, because that's important. This way they can listen to the podcast before those nights games. So that's the goal right there. So we're definitely going with earlier shows on the Hockey Talk Show this year, but everything else remains essentially the same. And, of course, it'll be your questions and answers and opinions and everything of that nature. So nothing else really changes. Daily Hockey Talk live here on the website. And the only other thing I'm going to impress upon you guys is I'm going to put a little bit more onus on you guys, the listeners, the viewers, and that is to share the Hockey Talk Show. We got to get a little bit more aggressive with sharing this thing around. If you're in a hockey group, if you're in a hockey league, whatever it is, just tell people, share every episode. Hit the share button right now. If you're on Facebook or YouTube, thumbs up, hit that share button. Make sure you guys spread the word. That is the absolute only way that we grow. I know we got some questions and comments and things coming in, and I'm going to get to all that, but I promise I want to get into some of the issues that we have here coming up. Let's talk about Taveres and Toronto. I knew this was a big deal when we did essentially one of our last shows in July with the free agency show. I knew him leaving the Islanders was going to be devastating to the Islanders franchise. I knew it was going to be a blessing to Toronto. Things quieted down. I will tell you, I'm a little surprised at how insane things have gotten in the last couple of weeks with training camp and this team. I mean, people are ready to give them the Stanley Cup right now. And I'm not saying they're not a contender for the Stanley Cup, but I think that Toronto Maple Leafs fans are going to be sorely, sorely disappointed in what this team winds up doing at the end of the day. And there's really specific reasons why. And one of those number one reasons I call the Tampa Bay Lightning. Again, I don't know how you get out of the East without going through the Tampa Bay Lightning, the Pittsburgh Penguins. There might be another one I'm thinking of. Oh, yeah. Stanley Cup champion Washington Capitals. Okay. There is a lot of stiff competition coming out of the East this year in the league, and the Toronto Maple Leafs have a ton of holes. Don't tell that to the Toronto media, though. They are insane about this team right now, even though they're missing William Nylander. We always look at the EA Sports NHL 19 predictions, or 18 and 17 in years past. This year, who does the game have winning the Stanley Cup? You guessed it. The Toronto Maple Leafs and John Taveres. Let me look at this picture right here. I don't know. Is William Nylander in that shot? I can't really see. It's hard to tell. It's hard to tell if William Nylander is in there or not. I really don't know. I'm not 100% sure. It's hard. I could see Austin Matthews. I definitely see Austin Matthews in there. I don't know if I see William Nylander or not. It's kind of hard. You know, these video games, they look great these days, but still some things are lacking a little bit. There's a little bit lacking there. And that's obviously the other story. Here's the beautiful part about the Toronto media, which I love so much. And you hear me comment on Toronto media all the time here if you listen to the show. In one breath, they're winning the Stanley Cup, and in the next breath, the whole thing is crumbling down because they don't have William Nylander. William Nylander is still a holdout, unless I missed something in the last 20 minutes. I'm not sure. I'm sure I'm getting this name wrong. Iridzitis? EA Sports makes the fakest beards ever. Not everybody can have the luscious facial hair of your old pal Ant. Thanks, Iridzitis. I'll take your very funny comment and use it as a compliment on myself. Here's the thing, though. EA Sports is not the only ones. In Vegas, the odds-on favorite, according to Vegas, to win the Stanley Cup, they have a three-way tie, odds-wise, 8-1 going off as of today. The Winnipeg Jets, the Tampa Bay Lightning, and the Toronto Maple Leafs. Again, even in Vegas, I severely think that they're overestimating this team. I think a lot of people are overestimating what this team is going to be this year. There's no doubt in my mind they're going to be way better than they were. You have Mike Babcock as your coach. You have a phenomenal goaltender. You now have, courtesy of your general manager, a little bit of a backup goaltender issue. But we'll get into that. But Kyle Dubas, who, and I want to give young guys a chance. I'm not here to be like, this guy doesn't know what he's doing. I like Kyle Dubas. I think he's making some over assumptions. He's showing a little bit of his inexperience. He really is. Again, a team goes out and gets John Taveres. It's an instant improvement. I'm not denying that. But you add John Taveres. Let's not forget we subtracted James Van Riemsdyk. Subtracted JVR. 30 goals out the door. Now, Taveres, point production-wise, will fill that in. Leadership-wise, will far exceed what JVR was able to do. But even John Taveres is not going to be able to patch up what is painfully obvious to everybody outside of Toronto, which is that they have no defense. Their defense stinks on ice. They're just not that good. And you relied heavily on Curtis McElhinney, and Kyle Dubas goes with Garrett Sparks right off the start of the season. A little bit of loyalty to his own guy because Dubas was in charge of the Marlies. And Garrett Sparks hasn't proved himself whatsoever. So I'm not as excited about Vegas or Toronto Maple Leafs fans going into this season for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And I love the Toronto Maple Leafs. I watch the Toronto Maple Leafs outside of the Islanders and the Rangers and the Devils, who I consume the most because I live in the New York metropolitan area. And I used to work for the Islanders, so obviously there's a loyalty there. I like Vegas, and I like watching Toronto. And there's plenty of coverage to go around on them. And then after that, probably Montreal, because, again, there's just a ton of coverage there. And then it sort of dwindles off from there. Those are the teams that I watch, consume, follow the most. So I really like Toronto. But I said this on last year's show, and you can go back to hockey talk shows of past. I said, adding John Taveres to this squad doesn't make sense to me. I don't even know why they're trying so hard to get him, because you're going to let JVR walk out the door, which everybody sort of knew towards the end of last season, and you're going to bring in John Taveres, and you're not addressing your defensive issues whatsoever. And again, you let Curtis McElhinney go. They lose him on waivers. Where did he go? To Carolina, I think. And I feel like you're in a little bit of a worse position on the defensive side of the puck, which is kind of a big deal. Now, we all know the strengths of this Toronto Maple Leaf team. Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, these guys, Kadri, these guys are great off the rush. We saw it with the start of last year. Remember? Mike Babcock at some point in the season, 10, 12 games in, started pulling the reins back on these guys. I thought it was a mistake. I said, let these horses run. They're better offensively. Let them win a game 6-4 instead of 2-1. See, coaches feel like I need to be important. We win a game 2-1. That's good coaching. We win a game 6-5. That's not good coaching. I disagree with that. I don't care. Win is a win. Points are points. But coaches have egos. They don't feel that way. Mike Babcock, big ego. Deserves it, but big ego. Big ego. So he doesn't like doing that. Pulled back on his horses last year. The Leafs struggled a little bit midway through. At some point, they looked around the rest of the league and realized, wow, nobody else is going to take this from us, and they took off. So I don't doubt the offensive power. I will say this about the Toronto Maple Leaf squad. Do not take penalties against them. They are literally looking at a power play unit of Taveres, Marner, and Matthews. This is the sickest power play unit I have seen in the National Hockey League. It's sick. Might be the best in the league by far. We're back, baby. Welcome, everybody. Make sure you guys are hitting the share button if you're watching this live, Facebook or YouTube. Doing my diatribe about the Toronto Maple Leafs. I don't think they're as good as everybody thinks they are, but their power play, sure. Their power play is amazing, and people might be underestimating it by calling it amazing. What do you do about William Nylander, though? Well, again, this is where I think Kyle Dubas has made two foolish moves. One, opting for Sparks over McElhinney. That was bad, and that just happened. Two, coming out in the John Taveres press conference after you just handed this guy $11 million a year for 7 years and saying, we can sign our three forwards, Nylander, Marner, and Matthews. There's a path to do so. I didn't believe it then, and I don't believe it now. And we're seeing it with William Nylander. And by the way, this is just the first step in the process of this thing coming crumbling down. This is the first step. We're seeing it right now. Why isn't Nylander signed? Because he knows that when he signs, Mitch Marner is going to sign for $2.5, $3 million more than him. And he's going to have to deal with that. The rumors are he's asking for $8 million, and the Leafs are at $6 million. A $2 million difference is insane. They can't even agree. The last rumor I heard was they were thinking about doing a bridge deal, meaning a 1-year deal. Some bridges are 2, but most of them are 1. They were thinking about doing a bridge deal. They can't even get there on that because you got money to spend once Marleau is done and off the cap this year. But Kyle Dubas sat there, looked the Toronto media in the face all the way around and said, I see a pathway for us to sign all these guys. I didn't see it then. I don't see it now. I think it's a mistake. Now, I don't think it's the worst thing in the world that the Toronto Maple Leafs let Nylander go. In fact, I think it would be phenomenal if they traded him for a defenseman who they desperately need. Desperately need. But, you know, I mean, here's AK. Here we go. Marner isn't worth more than Pasternak. Talk about overrating a player. It's so true. But Nylander, here's the problem. Agents get involved. right? William's dad is Michael. He was in the league. Michael never got paid what he thought he needed to get paid, so he's going to be overly cautious with his kid. All this kind of stuff is going to come up. I think there's some major issues hiding within the Toronto Maple Leafs organization, and I do not think that they are ready to win a Stanley Cup. No way, no how. And the main reason why is no defense. Your backup goaltending stinks. But even more than that, forget the Maple Leafs. Tampa Bay, Pittsburgh, the Washington Capitals. I just don't know in a 7-game series if the Toronto Maple Leafs can outlast all of those teams. Now, the interesting thing for the Leafs is expectations are through the roof with Taveres, sure, but anything past the first round is a little bit of a victory for them. They can't take any steps back. They've got to take steps forward. It doesn't help that everybody thinks that they're going to win the Stanley Cup, including the EA Sports simulation. It doesn't help whatsoever. Vegas odds have them as 8-1. That's favorited, tied, of course, with Winnipeg and the Tampa Bay Lightning, but still, they're the odds-on favorite in Vegas as of right now. That doesn't help their expectations, but again, you know, when you come back down to reality with everybody here, anything past the first round is considered a victory for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And that's all that matters. Louie and VGK coverage. How you doing, my friend? It's going to be another good year for the Vegas Golden Knights. I didn't feel that way in the middle of the summer, but I do now. I'm going to go through each and every single team here, and we got to do it quickly because we got a lot of stuff to cover on this first episode. But I'm going to go through each and every team here as we take a look and see what the additions, subtractions are. And we're also going to go over injuries because that is a big part of this season so far. And that's why I didn't really want to do, a season preview 2 weeks ago, like a lot of other outlets did, because everybody did their season previews and they're not worth shit now because everybody's hurt. Nearly everybody is hurt, you know. But to put a cherry on the top of this Toronto Maple Leaf Sunday, you know, Taveres got 11. Matthews is going to be looking for something quite similar. If you can get him for 10, you're lucky, right? Marner's going to be in there saying, well, if he's getting 10 or 11, I want 9 or 10 or 8. And why should William Nylander sit there at 6.5? Look, we know that one of the things and one of the reasons why Taveres went to the Maple Leafs was because of Austin Matthews. Austin Matthews sat there with John Taveres and he said, "Guy, I'm not going anywhere. You can go ahead and sign here for 7 years. I'll be here." And they've got the money for Matthews. And Marner's clearly going to work with them. But it feels like nobody checked in with William Nylander. Nor did they really ever seem to give a shit about William Nylander, to be honest with you. Dustin goes, show the full game. Are you seriously asking for that? Or is that just a callback to how annoying everybody was during the live reaction shows towards the end of the season last year? I don't know. But taking a look at the rest of the odds-on favorites for Vegas, 3 teams are the favorites to win the Stanley Cup right now, according to the odds. Jets, Leafs, Lightning. After that, you have Preds, Penguins, Sharks. Vegas at 14-1. Also the Caps to repeat at 14-1. Dustin with a dynamite callback. My man, that's hilarious. The Bruins in at 16-1, and then we have a lot of 25-1s. Columbus, Edmonton, that seems a little bit high. Philly, St. Louis Blues, dark horse, could be. The Kings, the Ducks, Flames, and Stars, all at 33-1. The Chicago Blackhawks, Colorado Avalanche, Florida Panthers, Minnesota Wild, New Jersey Devils at 40-1. Sabres are at 50-1. Coyotes, Hurricanes, Islanders, Rangers at 66-1. The Canadiens, the Vancouver Canucks are at 75-1. The Detroit Red Wings are 100-1, and the Ottawa Senators are 200-1 favorites to win the Stanley Cup final. I'm not here to give you gambling advice, but I did have a gambling problem long enough to admit that if you get odds If you get 200 to 1 odds on anything, you take that. You take those odds. You should go ahead and put 100 on Ottawa Senators just in case. But I'll tell you the one that I really, if you want value and you have a gambling problem, the St. Louis Blues at 25 to 1, I really like. They have serious goaltending issue. This is gambling. This is not hockey. This is gambling. St. Louis Blues I like, and I really, really like, and I think this can surprise a lot of people. I really, really like the Arizona Coyotes at 66 to 1. I love that pick. I love that pick. You put $100 down on the Arizona Coyotes and they come in, that's a cool payday. That's a cool payday. You want to be there. 25 to 1's a nice payday. But damn it. 66 to 1? Hell yeah. Give me that Antti Raanta any day. You guys watched the show last season. You know I'm a fan of Antti Raanta. Rob, welcome in. Michael. Oh, we're going to talk about injuries, Mike. You got it. Valentino. How's it going, my friend? Let me see here. Joe is in here. Chris, welcome back. Bruce, Sharon. Good crew on the Facebook page. Guys, again, hit that share button. Make sure you're spreading the word on the Hockey Talk Show. So those are your odds for the 2018-19 season. Here's what the offseason looked like, and I'm going to run through this as quick as possible because, you know, of course, there's a lot to talk about. But there are a couple of highlights and things that we really do need to mention, and we'll do this in alphabetical order because that's the way I have it laid out here in my notes. Start to finish, some of the moves I loved and didn't love. The Ducks, they moved some veterans off of their payroll. They signed Adam Henrique. It's not bad. No real major losses there. Let me see here. Luke Shen, you know, I like Luke Shen. Brian Gibbons, okay. The major issues for the Anaheim Ducks right now are the injuries. Corey Perry, and you know what? Let's do the injuries second. Let's go through the additions and subtractions. The Coyotes, Oliver Ekman-Larsson, huge addition. They moved Max Domi for Alex Galchenyuk. I like the move. Galchenyuk's got skill. Keep him off the sauce, and you might be able to have a good season for him. Away from the Montreal media, in the Arizona Coyotes media, which I think is like one 14-year-old kid who writes a blog. I think that's about who covers that team. You're going to be good to go. Vinny Hinostra, I like big time for the bottom six. Good young forward, nice size there. And I think the move that's underrated is Michael Grabner. You got a 30-goal scorer in Michael Grabner. What do you have, 27 last year? He's a 30-goal scorer. I love him in the desert. The guy loves to play golf. Loves it. 24/7 golf in Arizona, 12 months out of the year, just nothing but golf. I think he's going to really like it over there. Arizona's a great community. He's got a family, Michael Grabner. I think he fits in real nice. I think the speed, him and Galchenyuk maybe. I don't know what their lineup looks like per se. I haven't checked my daily face-off. Let's do that now. Put that up on the screen so you guys don't have to look at this face the whole entire time. I don't know where they have everybody slotted in here. Let's see. This according to dailyfaceoff.com, which I love. You guys know I love Daily Faceoff. They do a tremendous job. Let's take a look at who they got slotted in here for the Yotes. Perlini, Stepan, and Fisher. They have Perlini twice. Okay. Clayton Keller and Hinostra. Laurent Dauphin, who I do like a lot. Dylan Strome. They have Grabner on the fourth line. That can't possibly be. And Brad Richardson, Nick Cousins. I like Nick Cousins a lot, too. I really like this Coyotes lineup. I really do. I like Raanta. I think Oliver Ekman-Larsson staying is a big deal. I like Jason Demers on the back end. Kevin Connaughton, I think, is going to turn some heads this year. I just think they're going to be good. Again, Clayton Keller, you know, obviously that's your offensive prowess right there. Galchenyuk, they don't even have on here, but he'll be in there. Hinostra, Grabner, they made some solid additions. For the first time in a really long time, the Arizona Coyotes are in a better spot going into this year than they are in years past. They've added some things. Nobody thought that they can sign, what's his name? Oliver Ekman-Larsson, myself included. I didn't think they could sign Oliver Ekman-Larsson. But more than that, I thought that they pulled in Antti Raanta at a very fair and reasonable deal. Let's check our cap friendly here and see. Grabner's going to make 3.3. Great deal for him. Obviously, we know he can have up and down seasons. Look how affordable this team is. I mean, Jesus. Super, super affordable. Do they not have Galchenyuk in here? And they don't even have Galchenyuk in here. What is going on with Cap Friendly and Daily Faceoff? Everybody sleeping? The season starts today, people. Let's go. We got a season to play here. Antti Raanta, 4.2. I love his stats. I just think he's killer. I think he's very underrated as a goaltender. And I think the Arizona Coyotes are going to be good. I like what they did. They're paying Marian Hossa to not play. Again, this is a huge change in direction for the Arizona Coyotes. I still don't like John Chayka or his face, but we'll deal with it for now. Not much from the Bruins here. They add John Moore to their blue line. Good for them. They add Yaroslav Halak. I think he's going to be the best backup goaltender in the league. And they walk away from Riley Nash. Not a big loss for me. It's all about the young guys for the Boston Bruins. A lot of people are pegging them to finish second in the Atlantic Division. I have a little bit of a problem with that. I think the Toronto Maple Leafs will do better. But again, Bergeron, Marchand, Pasternak, it's a killer line. I think a lot of how this team winds up really is going to fall on that second line right there. Dan Heinen, who had a great year last year. Jake DeBrusk, obviously, is a big part. They got great youth. They turned this around really quickly. Wagner on their fourth line makes a whole bunch of sense. David Backes on a third line is great. Their defense, phenomenal. As always, John Moore, you could see in there. Kevin Miller moves in off the trade of McQuaid, who goes out. I have no issues. And, of course, Tuukka. Come on. The Boston Bruins are going to be solid this year, although I wouldn't be surprised if they finish behind the Toronto Maple Leafs. Buffalo Sabres. Dear Lord. I mean, what else can we say for the Buffalo Sabres? Rasmus Dahlin, they did their best work in the offseason, pulling in Rasmus Dahlin. But more than that, look, they landed, and I feel like they literally stole Jeff Skinner from the Carolina Hurricanes. Stole him. Stole Jeff Skinner. They moved Ryan O'Reilly off of their payroll, $7.5 million. Great move. You bring in Jeff Skinner. They didn't really give up much for him. You add Rasmus Dahlin. By the way, just a couple of hours ago, they slapped a C on Jack Eichel. Strong move there. This has been Eichel's team for a couple of years. But every team needs that star forward or the 1-2 punch. We talk about Pittsburgh all the time. But even with Pittsburgh, you need that defenseman, right? They got Letang in here. That was their guy. Stamkos came. They weren't whole until Hedman came, right? Now Hedman is in the mix. You need that defenseman to be a part of your franchise. Eichel has to wait a couple of years to get that done. He finally has it now. They bring in Patrick Berglund and Vladimir Sobotka on the other side. Tage Thompson comes in. I like the Buffalo Sabres here. I don't think that they do much. I think they missed the playoffs, but they're trending in the right direction. A lot of tweaks, a lot of instability in this organization, both on the ice and in the front office over the last couple of years. I think they stabilized themselves a little bit here. They went with the draft. They got arguably a phenomenal franchise-changing defenseman. And they bring in Jeff Skinner, which is scoring has always been an issue for this team. That should take a little bit off of 15. I like the Sabres. Let's move on. Calgary Flames. James Neal, maybe one of the best signings. 5 years, $28.75 million. You look at what the Vegas Golden Knights did last year, and I was thinking about this the other day, and I went back and I watched that first game yesterday, actually. Yesterday, I went back and I watched that first game that the Vegas Golden Knights played and some of those preseason highlights and just how influential James Neal was in getting this team off the ground. Obviously, the Vegas tragedy and everything that happened there. But when you go back and you watch those first couple of games, James Neal put this team on his back early on. Super important dude, stubborn in front of the net. A little bit difficult to get along with from what I understand, but who the hell isn't? And I think he's going to be tremendous for the Calgary Flames, who always have a little bit of an issue with scoring. Dougie Hamilton leaves. Noah Hannafin comes in. I think they have a little bit. Let me bring up their daily face-off here. I think with the Calgary Flames, they have a little bit of a depthy issue, meaning, you know, you look at some of the second lines, like the Vegas Golden Knights. Jesus, they got a hell of a second line nowadays. And you look at the Calgary Flames, Frolik, Backlund, and Tkachuk. You know, okay. It's okay. I wouldn't be surprised if Neil finds his way onto that second line. Right now, according to Daily Faceoff, they got it slotted a little bit different. But I'd also like to see Sam Bennett take his head out of his ass and actually start playing up to the potential that he's worthy of. But, you know, look, Tkachuk, Monahan, the Monahan-Goudreau line, they actually have Lindholm on that line, according to Daily Faceoff. We'll see how that shakes out. I love Mark Giordano. Great 1A defenseman. He's no Drew Doughty. He doesn't have to be. He's his own player. He's pretty good. And this is the second year now for Mike Smith. Let's see what they can do over there in Calgary. I think they're going to be all right. Travis Hamonic with Noah Hannafin. They have them slotted together. Brody and Giordano. That's a good defense. That's a good defense in Calgary. All right, let's move right along. Carolina Hurricanes. Svechnikov is the big ad for me. Scott Darling's got to have a good year. Cam Ward's out, so it's Scott Darling's team now. Peter Mrazek comes in to help out a bit. I mean, the Carolina Hurricanes are going to finish dead last, if you ask me. I just don't see... I mean, they're going to be competing for dead last with the Senators. I just don't see them doing all that much. And I don't get all the people that are excited about the Carolina Hurricanes. I just don't see it. I don't see it. John, how you doing? Welcome in, man. Coach Stan, can you please never mention the word Taveres again? Got to talk about it. Big story. I know it hurts the Isles fans. I know it does, but it's a big story. Big story. Let's get back to the additions and subtractions for the offseason. Chicago Blackhawks. What are the Chicago Blackhawks? You know, I really don't know. Are they making a big move? Are they, you know, going to break up Taves, Kane? I don't think so. I thought they did a great job getting Marian Hossa's contract off their books. That's pretty good. Marcus Kruger comes back into the mix. You know, I don't know. We got to see. We got to see. They didn't really do much. I think it's more of a mental situation with the Chicago Blackhawks. They've played a lot of hockey. A lot of hockey. By the way, you look at all the predictions for the Stanley Cup this year, nobody has the Pittsburgh Penguins in the finals. For me, biggest mistake ever, because I think they're a great team. But I think, much like Chicago, they've played a lot of hockey over these last couple of seasons. And, you know, I just think that they stalled out last year, and hopefully they've regained some of that momentum and they'll be okay. Here's a team, much like the Montreal Canadiens last season and the season before, that I really worry about, and that's the Columbus Blue Jackets. It feels to me like they're about to fall apart over there in Columbus. That's just the feeling that I get. It feels like it's about to crumble and fall apart if you're with the Columbus Blue Jackets camp. I just don't know how much they can keep this together. Artemi Panarin wants to go. They're going to have a whole bunch of free agents to deal with coming off of next season. Let's bring up their cap-friendly look here, just so I'm not talking out of my rear end. Bring it up on the screen for you guys. Promise we're going to get to some of these comments coming in for sure. We got to move a little quicker than this. We're only on the C's. Artemi Panarin, where does he wind up? Sonny Milano, when is he going to finally step up? But you look at Ryan Murray, you look at Zach Werenski, big parts of their defense, their free agents. Sergei Bobrovsky is going to be a free agent come next season. Again, where do these guys go? Where do you go if you're the Columbus Blue Jackets? Because It looked promising as hell for a long time there, right? Looked real promising for them. Josh Anderson stepping up. Boone Jenner's doing good. Alex Wenberg's coming out of nowhere. Nick Foligno's developing into a real fine captain. Brandon Dubinsky's doing what Brandon Dubinsky does. They pull in Anthony Duclair now. He's cheap, but he could score 20 if he's in the right place. You know, you got one of the best goaltenders in the league. You got one of the most, I think, one of the great coaches in the league. He's fiery. He's fun. He's exciting. You got all these things going on here. And now you're sort of kind of, you know, you're facing a team sort of like where the San Jose Sharks are. You know, can they get over that hump? They certainly haven't accomplished as much as the San Jose Sharks have. But can you get over that hump? I don't know. Rob with a good point on Facebook. Grabner with Derek Stepan could be something to watch. Old former Ranger connection. Absolutely. Could definitely be something to watch there. The Dallas Stars. Here's another team where, again, just right down the middle. Got some great players. Got some hope. Right? They bring on Anton Khudobin to replace Kari Lehtinen in this little goalie carousel that we had in this offseason. Blake Como comes in, who's been great for the Colorado Avalanche as a good third, fourth line player. Roman Polak comes in, not a ton of speed there. They were in on the Taveres thing from what I understand. Kind of hoping against hope to get that done. I don't know about the Dallas Stars. I'm just not excited about them. The best part about the Dallas Stars is at least they're not the Detroit Red Wings. You know what I'm saying? Because Detroit stinks. You know how I said Columbus is kind of coming around and, you know, they have to figure out what they're going to be and all this. Well, the Detroit Red Wings have nothing to look forward to. Philip Zadina, okay, but, I mean, come on. They re-signed Mantha, who's, you know, all right. Mike Green, okay. Thomas Vanek comes back at $3 million, which is workable, but I still think a little bit too much for Thomas Vanek. 3 years, $9 million for Jonathan Bernier. So, you know, that's what it is. Their goaltending, not exactly solid. Still not what I would love to see on my franchise if I was the general manager there. So I think the Detroit Red Wings have some stuff to worry about. Zetterberg walks away from the game. Congratulations on a great career. But now that's it. You're done. 5, 13, and 40 are gone. It is time to start this rebuild. Rid yourself of the rest of your awful contracts and get this team back in order. The most exciting prospect for the Detroit Red Wings is the fact that, what's his name, just stepped away from the Tampa Bay Lightning. Stevie Y. That's the most exciting prospect you have is the Detroit Red Wings. You're out there going like this. You know what prospects I'm excited about? Philip Zadina and Steve Yzerman. That's what I'm really excited about. Because I don't know if Kenny Holland sticks around. What was it, a 2-year extension for him? It was a short one. And Steve Yzerman deciding not to re-sign. From what I understand, he had a 5-year commitment on the table from the Tampa Bay Lightning. They were ready to pony up for Steve Yzerman. He was the one that said, I cannot commit to that. I'll ride out my last year with you guys as a consultant. I'll be here, but let me step aside as general manager. I mean, I think that cat's going to go over to Detroit, and I think everybody knows it. This is going to be the worst kept secret in the National Hockey League. And poor Kenny Holland doesn't deserve to be dogged like that because the guy is a fantastic, fantastic front office person. So interesting to see what happens with the Detroit Red Wings, but no hope there on the future. The Oilers, where do you go here? I like that they picked up Evan Bouchard. Good job at the draft there. That's a nice pickup for them. Edmonton's always going to need good defensemen, especially young ones that they can develop. But you still got Milan Lucic on your payroll, which is not good. Is Cam Talbot your guy? A lot of question marks for the Edmonton Oilers. The Florida Panthers, I like a lot. I like the Mike Hoffman addition. Look, if you can keep the off-ice issues off everything, way off ice, not even in the arena, you're good to go. What happened between him and, Carlson and Carlson's wife and all that stuff? I don't know. Certainly it feels like something definitely happened between all that. But, you move on. You're down, fresh start. You hope that they can make it happen. This is going to be a really offensive-powered Florida Panther team. In fact, from my little list here of most intriguing teams, I got Buffalo, Florida, and Arizona. These are the most intriguing teams to me because these are the teams that maybe could make it over the hump. I don't think Buffalo, but I really like Florida and I really like Arizona. Buffalo I put on the list. Again, Arizona, Ronta, Galchenyuk, maybe he pans out. Clayton Keller, there's a lot to be hopeful there. With the Florida Panthers, you got the same exact thing. You have the same exact team that missed the playoffs by 1 point last year, now adding a Mike Hoffman to the mix. You got to be excited about that. In fact, if you're a New Jersey Devils fan, you got to be shitting in your pants a little bit here. Ilya Kovalchuk comes back to the National Hockey League and he goes to the Los Angeles Kings. I think it's a great deal. 3 years, good amount of money. Doesn't bother me in the least. They lock up Drew Doughty for $88 million. Peter Budaj comes back. Good moves all around for the Los Angeles Kings. I think they're going to compete this year. But again, they're another team that's sort of on the other side of that mountain, on the back side of the mountain. Minnesota Wild, new GM, right? Let's see what they do there. Matt Dumba resigns. I heard a rumor, by the way. I forget where I heard it. That Garth Snow tried desperately to pull Matthew Dumba in at the trade deadline from Minnesota. Desperately. Montreal Canadiens, not much hope here. The good news is addition by subtraction. You get rid of Max Pacioretty. That's a huge black cloud off of their backs. Max Domi comes in. Let's see what he can do. They brought back Thomas Plekanec. From what I understand, he's going to be a scratch tonight against Toronto, which doesn't make a whole hell of a lot of sense. It's not going to be a great year for the Montreal Canadiens. They just named Shea Weber their captain. That was an obvious move. We all knew that was going to happen. It's going to be a tough year for them. How long can they stick it out? How much can Carey Price's back take at this point? We really just don't know. We'll have to wait and see. The Nashville Predators are going to be as good as they've ever been. They lose Mike Fisher to retirement for a second time. But as boring as they were in the offseason, they didn't really need to do much. Speaking of boring in the offseason, that was also the Devils. They lose Michael Grabner, John Moore, and Brian Gibbons. They lose Patrick Maroon. But the good news is Taylor Hall is still alive and skating very well. And that's all you need if you're the New Jersey Devils. Devils are playing a great team game. Corey Schneider gives them a chance to win all the time. Again, the toughest thing for the Devils is how do you keep the Florida Panthers out? That's going to be the toughest part. The points are going to change for them as far as making the playoffs this year. I just don't see it. For the Islanders, you lose the highest free agent in the game. Taveres leaves for Toronto. We all know the story there. The only good thing you do in the offseason, Barry Trotz, Lou Lamoriello come in. By the way, hands down, the Islanders had the best draft. I mean, they had, outside of Buffalo. It's not going to affect them this season, but I hate to say it because Islander fans don't want to hear this because they've been hearing it for years. The future's really bright. As bright as ever. The future has not been this bright since 2009 when the Islanders drafted John Taveres. So here you guys are 9 years later, which, by the way, teams usually do rebuild every 10 years or so. They usually win a lot more within that 10-year time frame, but that's a whole other thing. I think you're going to see a little bit of a surprise from the New York Islanders this year. They're not going to be as bad as people think. They're going to be bad. They're not going to make the playoffs. But I think they're going to hang around and they're going to fight for it. I think they're going to be in that mix. Philadelphia, Florida, New Jersey. I think they're going to be in that mix in the Eastern Conference because they do have a lot of good things going for them. And the number one thing is Barry Trotz. The guy knows how to put together a defensive game, but also let his offensive players fly. He's got to let Barzal fly. Barzal is going to be taking on a lot more of the tougher competition. We know that, but The other thing that the Islanders did was they went out and they became a lot more defensively responsible on their offensive lines. The Islanders were god-awful defensively, and they've turned that around. You bring in Leo Komarov, you bring in Valtteri Filppula, Matt Martin comes back to put together the best fourth line in hockey, and it's great. Thomas Kuhnhackl, there's a couple of deals in there like, wow, that's weird. They waived Kuhnhackl. He's going to be on the 23-man roster. He's not on the opening night lineup, but Kuhnhackl's going to be there. Plenty of defensive depth. Solid bottom six. It's not going to win you a whole hell of a lot. We don't know what Robin Lehner is, so we'll have to wait and see on that one. But coming down the pipe, you got Noah Dobson, Oliver Wahlstrom from this past draft. I think Kiefer Bellows, when he finally gets added to the mix, is going to be a phenomenal rookie for them. And, you still have Joshua Ho-Sang. Where does he fit into the mix? Worst part about this team, Josh Bailey is signed long-term without John Taveres. And if Bailey doesn't find chemistry with Barzal, then you're in a whole hell of a lot of trouble. By the way, there's a lot of free agents on this franchise as well. I believe Anders Lee is a free agent. I have to check. I know Jordan Eberle is. Eberle, Brock Nelson, Anders Lee, Anthony Beauvillier is an RFA after this season. That's trouble. You have got to get those guys to commit. If everybody starts jumping ship, not good for the franchise. The New York Rangers. Exciting time to be a Rangers fan. Again, they've committed to the rebuild. You have nothing to worry about. The Rangers are in a similar boat with the Canadians where they know what they're going through, only they're just far better than the Canadians, like way better off than the Canadians. But you got a great goaltender in the mix in Hank. Can Jimmy VC finally step up? I like, who's the guy, the young prospect? Philip Cheadle. You got Cheadle in the mix. Let me see here. I had my Cheadle in the mix. I was a little surprised Elias Anderson doesn't make this squad. He goes down to Hartford. So we'll see how that goes. Brett Howden sticks with the team. Let's see how that goes. A lot of good prospects in here. I like the Rangers. I don't think they're going to be exciting because there's not a lot of expectation here. You build up, you let these guys go. Zibanejad is good. I like the Rangers. I think they're exciting. They stripped themselves of Nash. Bad contracts are gone. They don't have a player making over $6 million besides Hank. Shattenkirk's at 6.5. That's okay. All their guys, Brady Shea, Brendan Smith. Oh, Brendan Smith's a bad example. Matt Zuccarello, Chris Kreider, Zibanejad. They're all $5 million players. They're all signed to pretty decent long-term deals. All their long-term commitment. Brady Shea's 5.2. That's good. That is a good commitment. Matt Zuccarello is a UFA. I'd get him out of contract. He obviously wants to be here. Vladdy Nemensnikov is going to be a good ad. Again, the Jesper Fosts, the Jimmy VCs, these guys got to step up. But you got to be excited about Brett Howden. You got to be excited about Philip Cheadle coming in. What can these guys add to the mix? Not a lot of expectation, but a lot of excitement for the New York Ranger fans. So we look forward to that from them. Ottawa Senators are just the worst kind of dog shit you could ever step in. The kind that really just sticks in there and is just super soft, and you hose it down and it doesn't come off, and you get a stick in there and it doesn't come off, and you got the paper towels and the whole 9 yards, and you clean it as best you can, and then you're just holding on to it, and you're like, oh my God, look, there's still a lot of dog shit on my shoe. That's what the Ottawa Senators are on. They have an owner who is out of his mind insane. They trade Mike Hoffman because he can't get along with Erik Karlsson in that whole situation, knowing damn well that they're trading Erik Karlsson. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. And now you want Matt Duchene to stay? Well, He hasn't put his name on the dotted line, and I don't see him doing that. And by the way, I also don't see a great list of prospects in this franchise. There's nothing to be excited about if you're an Ottawa Senators fan. Rangers fans, you got some prospects to be excited about. Detroit Red Wings, not so much on the ice, but you know what? Maybe Stevie I comes back in here and rebuilds this bad boy. Every franchise has something to be excited about. The Ottawa Senators do not. Like, you ever have that friend who's like, I'm so depressed, man, I don't know. And you're like, don't be sad. Like, you have so much to live for. There's all these great things. You know, you can say that to a lot of franchises. When the Ottawa Senators are like your friends, like, I don't know, I'm so depressed. I'm thinking about maybe offing myself. And you're looking at them going, I don't know, I'm surprised you're even still alive. Yeah, I know you want me to say something encouraging to keep you here, but I'm just not coming up with it. That's what the Ottawa Senators are. They're a team that you struggle to find anything nice to say. You're in the capital. I don't even know. Your jerseys even suck. There's nothing good to say about the Ottawa Senators. There's nothing. Nothing. I don't know. Philadelphia Flyers, they're going to be in that mix. I think the fun battle to look at in the East, Florida, Philadelphia, New Jersey. People think Carolina's going to be in that mix. I don't see it. It's just going to be fun to watch those teams battle it out for those last couple of wild card spots. Penguins, again, I don't know why everybody's not taking the Penguins more seriously. They add Jack Johnson to the mix. Riley Sheehan stays. Matt Cullen stays. Brassard, Malkin, Crosby. 81 is still there. I mean, come on. They're the Pittsburgh Penguins. They'll be competing for it. Look how depressed the Washington Capitals fans are going to be when they roll into the playoffs and Pittsburgh doesn't lay down because they're Stanley Cup champions. It's going to be tough for them. St. Louis Blues. These guys are a dark horse. Braden Shen, Ryan O'Reilly, they can afford to pay it, and Tyler Bozak down the middle. That's a pretty good top six. Again, it's not Pittsburgh. It's not Toronto now, but I would say third behind those two teams as far as your middle goes. Pretty damn good. David Perron comes back. Still a lot of scoring in that stick. Patrick Maroon, I'm not that excited about as far as additions go. The big problem with the St. Louis Blues, can Jake Allen do it? Because now it's his year. Chad Johnson's there. Carter Hutton's gone. Johnson's the backup. Jake Allen, it's your team. Can you run with it? Let's see. The San Jose Sharks. Evander Kane comes back. Joe Thornton comes back with a vengeance and a clean face. He shaved the beard. And, of course, they add Erik Karlsson to the mix. Karlsson and Burns. I mean, we haven't seen a combination this amazing since Blake and Bork. I don't even know. I mean, realistically, I don't even know. Norris Trophy winners don't play together all that often. It's very, very rare. In fact, I think it only happened. I think this is the fifth time in history of the National Hockey League. Fifth time in the 100 years that has happened. So they're going to be stacked. San Jose is going to be stacked. And they have to be because the Vegas Golden Knights are friggin' stacked. Stacked. And, of course, you're going to have to deal with the Winnipeg Jets and the Nashville Predators. You got to bulk up, and the San Jose Sharks did that. I heard that the Sharks offered or were going to offer or were comfortable with offering John Taveres $13.5 million. That is how bad San Jose wanted John Taveres. I thought that the Islanders were coming to the plate with the biggest amount of money, but as it turns out, and I don't know what the Islanders offered him, maybe they did, but as it turns out, San Jose went in there with a big fat check and was like 13.5, buddy. Go ahead and think about it. That's a nice little wedding present. That's a nice little wedding present. Roblox Jack, welcome in. Yeah, we did a lot in the playoffs last year. These are our regularly scheduled shows, live shows. We're going to the additions and subtractions. This is going to be a long one, I think. How long have we been on for? I can't even see. An hour? More than an hour? Coming up on an hour. You don't get John Taveres, but you land Erik Karlsson. Martin Jones, such an underrated goaltender. You got to love San Jose. They'll be back in the playoffs this year. Can they get over the hump? Can they make it through the playoffs? Tampa Bay Lightning, one of the odds-on favorite, if you ask me, to win the Stanley Cup. I mean, Stevie Yzerman, if Kyle Dubas is going to copy anybody, copy Stevie Yzerman. The guy gets Kucherov under an 8-year extension, extends Ryan McDonough. I mean, what the hell? What the hell else do you want from this team? They're phenomenal. They're built. They're going to be the toughest part of the Toronto Maple Leafs. Everybody in Toronto is all excited for John Taveres. I get it. Be excited. That's a hell of a power play again. But you gotta face the Tampa Bay Lightning. You gotta face the Washington Capitals, the Pittsburgh Penguins. Like, not with that defense. Come on, man. And Garrett Sparks. Garrett Sparks is going to give you 20 games. I don't know. Not that excited about that. Vancouver, not a lot to be excited about. Twins are gone. It's a new year. What can you say about the Vancouver Canucks other than at least they're not the Ottawa Senators? Vegas Golden Knights. I was ready to come on to this show and poo-poo the Vegas Golden Knights, crush my man Lou, and tell you about how much of a disappointment this year was going to be compared to last year. And what do the Knights do? They grab Paul Stastny on a nice 3-year deal. They go ahead and trade for Max Pacioretty. Now I can't say that. This might be the best top 6 in the whole damn league. I mean, this top 6 is stellar. They've taken that first line, which was amazing, Marchessault, Smith, and Carlson, and now right behind it, you have Pacioretty, Stastny, and Eric Haula. Holy cow. Marc-Andre Fleury behind all of that. The Vegas Golden Knights are going to be ridiculous. I thought there was going to be a letdown from losing James Neal. I also thought expectation-wise they were going to get crushed this year. I thought they were going to be in the mix, make the playoffs, but it was going to be an early exit. Now, totally different story. And by the way, I watched the press conference of Max Pacioretty in Vegas. Homie was excited to get there. It was like he was born there. He was friggin' thrilled to be back in Sin City. I haven't seen anybody that excited to be in Vegas since my cousin Vinny turned 21 and could gamble legally finally. So good for the Vegas Golden Knights. They've really built up a nice culture there very, very quickly. Caps, what can I say? They're going to be tough to play against. They're a phenomenal team. They're super depth all around. Great goaltending, one of the best in the league. Can you repeat? Look how hard it is to do that. I don't know if they repeat, but they're going to be tough to play against. And the Winnipeg Jets, again, what can you say? Stellar team, one of the favorites to win the Cup. I can't argue with it whatsoever. They're phenomenal. I like the Winnipeg Jets more this year than I liked them last year. And you're sitting there going, why, Ant? They lost Paul Stastny. They traded Joel Armia. A lot of people can argue that they're worse off this year than they were last year. And I would say you don't know what the hell you're talking about, because I look at this team and they are just as good as they were last year, if not better, because they have last year's experience under their belt. Blake Wheeler, Kyle Connor, and Mark Scheifele is a hell of a line. And that's not even including their best scorer on the team, Patrick Laine, right behind them. I mean, they're just insane. Great defense, Trouba, Bufflin, great goaltending. Everything is great. Everything is great. Going to talk about the Seattle franchise momentarily, but while we're talking about the Jets, let's talk about the damn third jerseys, because as I look at this lineup of jerseys that we got in the offseason, I think the Winnipeg Jets win this one too. I think they have the best jersey. And I look at the comments and everybody's like, oh, their jersey stings. They're just so simple. What? What? Let's take a look at the third jerseys. I'm going to explain to you why the Winnipeg Jets have one of the best. First of all, I love Anaheim because it's the classic look, but a new take on the classic look. They keep their modern numbers with the little points on the ends, and they bring back the eggplant and the teal. I love that. But this is a look we've seen before. The Coyotes might be my personal favorite. Love the old school Coyote. Green shoulders, nothing not to love about this. Skyline on the bottom, phenomenal. But we've seen this before. Carolina Hurricanes, nice jersey. Blacked out original logo up on the top here on the shoulder pads. Black jersey all around, 2 stripes, solid bar on the bottom. I really appreciate that. They got the cool neckline. All the in the necklines for the Adidas jerseys have been phenomenal. But we've seen this before. This was their old shoulder patch. All they did was add a second flag. It's nice. It's a little crazy because it's a really long logo, but we've seen it before. Throwback for the Flames. We've seen it before. Colorado Avalanche. Love this. I love this cutoff shoulder look that they got going on now with the Adidas jerseys. You know, you can round it out like a lot of teams do, but I like the cutoff look. I like the old school logo for Colorado. It's phenomenal. Real nice look. Can't wait to see this on the ice. But we've seen it before. Columbus. Seen it before. Seen it before. Finally, they have a third jersey. But seen it before. Seen it before. Why isn't this orange? Massive disappointment. Orange jersey, blue shoulder pads, Islanders. It's not hard to fuck this up, yet you continue to do so. But still, it's okay. It's okay. I like the Long Island over here. Again, behind the neck, not bad. Seen it before. Seen it before. San Jose, seen it before. We've never seen this before. We've never seen this before. And they did what made third jerseys classic. They took the third color in the scheme and used it as the primary color in the jersey. That is hugely important. Hugely important. That's the whole purpose of these things. That's why you have the third jersey. You take your alternate logo and your third color in the scheme and you make that your primary stuff. I love it. Come on, guys. Look at this powder blue. How beautiful is this? How beautiful is this powdered blue over here? With the black against it and then the big white stripe. We are true north underneath the collar. I think it's the best third jersey we've seen. I don't have a problem with simplicity. I like it. And the Capitals, I mean, I don't even understand. They've been just trudging the same third jersey around. Bring back the blue, brown, and white already. The black, white, blue, and brown. Give me the Screaming Eagle on the front. Come on. That's what we all want to see, damn it. That's what we want for a third jersey for the Washington Capitals, for sure. Hockey Talk Show here on a Wednesday. Season starts in just a couple of hours. Thank you guys for being here. Let's take a look at the injury report, and then we're going to talk about the Seattle franchise, which is coming. Anaheim, Jesus. Nick Ritchie out. Brian Gibbons is day-to-day. Corey Perry out until February. That hurts. Patrick Eaves out. Kessler is out for a couple of days, his hip. Dvorak for Arizona. Jacob Chicherin out for Arizona. Galchenyuk is out until this weekend. Marian Hossa is out. He's never coming back. Torrey Krug, massive hurt for the Boston Bruins. 2 to 3 weeks at least with an ankle injury. That sucks. Bogosian out for Buffalo. So is Rasmus Ristolainen, who's a key part of their defense. He is day-to-day. They're both day-to-day. So is Marco Scandella. There are way too many injuries in the National Hockey League to start this season. It's been a rough preseason for the National Hockey League. Matthew Tkachuk is day-to-day for Calgary. Scott Darling, Victor Rask, out until the 16th and 20th, respectively. So is Michael Furlan. Connor Murphy, Corey Crawford, and Gustav Forsling for the Chicago Blackhawks. Forsling, the big one there, till November. So is Connor Murphy, actually. And it is Corey Crawford with a concussion, couple of weeks. We all know concussions can be longer, though. Colorado has a couple of minor ones. The big one is Nathan McKinnon is day-to-day. Seth Jones out until the 1st with a knee injury. That is going to hurt Columbus. Not the way you want to start off the season, especially when you're trying to hold on to Panarin like you are. Ben Bishop is day-to-day. Martin Hanzal is out until November for the Dallas Stars. For Detroit, Eriksson, Green, Svechnikov, Lashoff, Cronwall, Franzen, all out for a long time. I shouldn't say all out for a long time. Cronwall and Eriksson are day-to-day. Adam Larson, Strome, and Tyrati day-to-day for Edmonton. Actually, Strome played today, so that's inaccurate information. For Florida, they're actually looking pretty good, except for Ekblad, who's day-to-day. Dustin Brown out till next week for the Kings. For Montreal, obviously Shea Weber is the big one, out until December or so. Austin Watson and Ryan Hartman for Nashville. Austin's suspended till the 3rd. Corey Schneider's hurt, expected to come back next week for New Jersey. Andrew Ladd is day-to-day for the Islanders. Boo Nieves is day-to-day for the Rangers. Bolesky is out till the 25th of October. Gabrick is out till this weekend. Brady Tkachuk for the Senators. Clark MacArthur, he's out for a long time. JG Pageau out until March with the Achilles issue. I mean, look at this, is ridiculous. This is the injury report to start the season. We haven't even started the season yet. Pittsburgh has Tristan Jarry out until the 13th. Brian Dumoulin, Justin Schultz, and Daniel Sprong day-to-day. Robbie Fabry out till next week for St. Louis. So is Carl Gunnarsson till November 1st. Joel Edmondson, Alexander Steen are day-to-day. Bartuzzo until the 6th. JT Miller, Kucherov, and Tyler Johnson day-to-day for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Ryan Callahan is out until November. For Toronto, Nylander, no contract. That's not an injury. Louis Eriksson for Vancouver, out for a couple of days here. Alex Tuck, Cody Eakin for a couple of days. David Clarkson. No, he's not coming back. That's long term. And Nate Schmidt's got that suspension till the 18th. I don't know whatever happened to that. Nate Schmidt got suspended. He was all like, well, I'm fighting this. He didn't fight anything. He's out. He's not doing a damn thing. Let's talk about the Seattle franchise. It looks as though the Seattle franchise took a big step forward on Tuesday. They had a significant meeting, and now it looks like the National Hockey League is going to be making the vote on these on the Seattle franchise in December. That's the news coming today. December will be the time when the National Hockey League will vote on the Seattle franchise. There's no rushing here, but by all accounts, we are definitely expecting Seattle to get their franchise. According to Gary Bettman, 2020 would be the year. The only thing that would prevent that from happening is getting that arena done. Key Arena needs to be renovated. There's a lot of work to be done there, but the league's 32nd franchise could be approved in December, the next time the Board of Governors meet. This is a committee recommendation, and the recommendation was to proceed with expansion in Seattle, subject to completing the process early with a report and presentation to the full board in December. Remember, this is all hearsay. We know about the tickets. We know about there's good ownership. They got the money. We know all these things. They got to put it all together with the arena, with all this stuff, and they have to present it to the league. And they have to have real facts and evidence and reports. And it's like a whole thing. But Dave Tippett's there, so, all good. I'm sure he'll handle it. But Gary Bettman said, look, it looks good. December 3rd and 4th, the Board of Governors meets in Georgia, and that is the absolute earliest it can happen. If it doesn't happen then, it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's not a step behind, but that is the absolute earliest it can happen because the Board of Governors doesn't meet again until then. So they're going to be focused on 2020 and getting the franchise into the mix. And worst case scenario, 2021 is when we'll get the 32nd franchise in the National Hockey League, which will be the Seattle Totems, Rainiers. I don't know. We got a video on it. Check it out, hockeytalkshow.com. I did think the interesting thing, especially for Arizona, why I think Arizona looks like they could be pretty good in the years to come is if Seattle does come into the league, I think my guess would be that you would move the Coyotes from the Pacific to the Central. And that could be good for Arizona, especially if Chicago continues to falter Dallas, we don't know where they're at. Minnesota looks like they're headed for somewhat of a rebuild, although Suter and Parisi are going to prevent a lot of that. You got the Preds, St. Louis, Winnipeg. I guess it's not that much of an easier, but I was going to say at least you're getting away from the San Jose Sharks and the Vegas Golden Knights and the Calgary Flames, who've just bulked up. Connor McDavid and Cam Talbot get their act together. They're going to be tough. I don't really know, but as it looks right now, you know, we're a team short in the Western Conference, and if Seattle comes in, I would assume that you'd want to put them in the Pacific, of course, because they really want to create that sort of rivalry with Vancouver, and you'd have to move somebody out of that division, and I don't know who you move out. I mean, the most Eastern team, logically, is Arizona. And that's crazy because they're so close to Vegas, and that's a nice little rivalry as well. Two desert teams. But I think that's what you would do. I think that's where you would go. I think we covered everything. I thought we were going to go a lot more than an hour and 10. Big show. Big first show to get the season started. We are going to be here with you a ton. I will say we might be closer to doing 4 live shows a week than 5. That's a little tough these days. There's a lot of side projects going on for your old pal Ant. I'm going to do a show 5 times a week as much as I can, but there may be a couple of weeks where we do 4 instead of 5. I look back at some of our shows last year. Sometimes it was just really slow news days. We may take a couple of those days off moving forward, but we're still going to be here. There's going to be a lot of live programming. So tell everybody you know, we're here live. If there's any questions, I'll take them right now really, really quickly, but we're going to be here live. Make sure you guys spread the word. I see some of these other, by the way, we got to up our YouTube numbers. Our Facebook numbers are so great. Our YouTube numbers are so slow. I see some of these other guys doing hockey, discussions on YouTube. They're doing them from their closet, all this crazy stuff. They're getting like 10,000 views. I'm like, this is insane. They can't take calls. They can't take questions. It's just nuts. We got to spread the word. We got to get on those pages and spread the word. So make sure you guys do that. I think I killed the chat. So I think we're going to wrap it up here. That's it for the 2018-19 season preview. We look forward to tonight. Montreal and Toronto. Toronto runs away with this. Big victory flag. Everybody's going to be super happy. Taveres wins everything. It's going to be a nightmare for Toronto fans tomorrow. That's how bad they're going to win this one tonight. It's going to be 7-1. It's going to be ridiculous. God love the Canadians if they give away power play again. I mean, Kadri, Taveres, Marner, and Matthews. Holy hell. That's going to be insane. Give me Toronto tonight. I never like the ceremony games, but it's going to be amazing to watch the Capitals raise the banner this evening. Give me the Caps over the Boston Bruins. It'll be a hard-fought one. I wouldn't be surprised if it's in overtime. Give me Calgary over Vancouver tonight, the 10 o'clock game in the East, and the national game for the National Hockey League, the National League game, I should say. Anaheim and San Jose. Give me the San Jose Sharks in that one. Corey Perry's out. Erik Karlsson's in. That's a runaway. Eddie says Montreal 17, Toronto 1. Good to know that Eddie's crazy predictions are back for another year. Tom Wilson suspension fair. Did we get it in the middle of the show? Because I haven't seen it. Did it finally come through? 20 games. Wow. 20 games for Wilson. Look, I'll say this. I think that, and I kind of had a feeling that this was going to happen. Wilson was going to pay the price for being the first big one of the year, and the league is setting a tone here. I don't love the hit. I don't hate the hit. I actually kind of love the hit, to be perfectly honest with you. I'm not really down for the wussification of this game. I feel like we've taken it down enough, and they want to kind of keep it going, and I'm really happy at the level we have it at. I like a fight every 2-3 games. I don't need 3 bench clearing brawls every single game, but 2-3 games go by and then a fight happens. I'm happy with that. I think that's a good level. Wilson's an exceptional player. The guy just makes some bad decisions. I think he's going to be a lot better off if he opts more for the hockey play than the hit. That's just my personal advice to him. That being said, I've seen the hit. It didn't look like he was intending to hurt him, but it looked like he was going to hit a guy not paying attention. The other thing, Oscar Sundqvist, like, why isn't anybody putting the onus on this kid? Bro, you're coming across the middle. You're playing the Washington Capitals. You know 43 is on the ice. Know where the hell you are. Don't go floating across the middle like you're skating through Central Park acting like you're not going to get hit. Because I got news for you. If that was Ovi, he'd have lined his ass up too. A lot of players would have lined his ass up. So I don't mind the suspension, and I knew it was going to be a big one. I thought it was going to be like 15 games, 10 games. I knew they were going to set a precedent on him. 20 games, I'm a little surprised. But there's no onus put on the defensive player here. Like, I know for the longest time they wanted to get away from this angle, this, coming from behind sort of angle. So I get that. The players are aware of that. Tom Wilson should know that too. But, guy, you don't come across the middle and you got to protect yourself. You've got to protect yourself. 20 games is big, though. I mean, that's a big hunk. That is a quarter of the season, really. That's a big hunk. I don't know if he can fight it because he was in person, right? Can he appeal? He's also a repeat offender. That comes into it. He's going to forfeit $1.2 million of his salary. Yeah, doesn't say here if he can appeal. I don't think you can appeal if you have an in-player. In an in-person meeting. It's the kind of thing where everybody kind of got what they had coming to them. You skate across the middle of the ice like that, you get walloped, you had it coming to you. No, I'm not rooting for anybody to get injured here, but you don't pay attention, you got your head down, you come across the middle, you get what's coming to you. Keep your head up if you're going to move towards the middle of the ice. And again, if you're Wilson, you're coming from that angle. You're making a hit that big on a player that does not see you coming. You better be ready to give up $1 million too. You just better be ready to give up $1 million too. Coach Dan, and did you see the Riverhead Shoreham Wading River High School team? No, I did not. Do they have a team? I would love to catch a game. I would love to see where they're playing from. I was doing a lot with, in fact, it was just this week too. One of my buddies that listens to the other show that I do, the radio show, he was getting a lot of the players, Mark Messier and a lot of the Islanders and such to come to this golf outing. And they were trying to do the Peconic Hockey Foundation. Peconic Hockey? Google the Peconic Hockey Foundation. They're trying to raise money to bring a rink out here to the East End. And I haven't heard anything about it in a while as far as the actual building of the rink goes. But the East End needs something. So I think that's killer if Riverhead Shoreham Wading River is going to have a team. But I don't know where they're going to play. Is it roller? Are they going to play in Pulaski Park? I don't know. Domi got less than Wilson. Wilson's a repeat offender. McDavid is great and all, but not number one. That's Crosby all day around. Vin, I agree with that, but not for long. I mean, Crosby is going to go down as one of the great players of all time, probably second behind Gretzky, but that is going to be quickly turned over by Connor McDavid one day soon. I don't know how the rinks keeps the schedule up. I feel like every team on every single level plays at the rinks. Feels like with two sheets, they're busting out of the seams over there. I don't know. All right, that's where I'm going to leave you guys. Big, long show today. Thanks so much for coming back. Again, spread the word. We're going to be here all year long. Like the Facebook page. Follow us there. Like us on YouTube. Hit that bell so you get the notifications for when we go live. Let everybody know we actually moved our home on the podcast side of things. We're no longer on Podbean. We're now with the Anchor folks. They do a better job, but we're still everywhere you go. iTunes, Google Play, and of course, Spotify. So if you're following along on the podcast, make sure you guys rate and review, especially on iTunes. It makes a huge difference. Big show to get things started. Tomorrow night, we got more hockey. That means we got another Hockey Talk show coming up.